What's up everybody? So today we're taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 versus the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. The reason I wanted to make this video is because the Note 9 is right around the corner, and as such the previous phones in the line always tend to drop in price once a new phone comes out. The Note 8 is going to get discounted, I'm sure, through carriers and through direct vendors like Samsung and Best Buy, as well as used vendors like Swappa and Gazelle, eBay. You'll see just the prices are going to come down because people are trying to get rid of them to either get money for the Note 9 or just because they just want to try to get less phones in their lives. And I know the case with me is usually I just trade them in and apply that as the credit towards the future phone. But every once in a while I will sell instead of trading it in. So like I said, I'm going to do a comparison between the Note 8 and the S9 Plus, because while the Note 9 is the shiny new hotness, it is also a $1,000 phone, or $1,200 if you get the beefed up, spec'd up version. And so maybe you don't want to drop that much coin, but you still want a really good phone. These phones are the Note 8 a year old and the S9 Plus about 7 or 8 months old respectively. And they're both really good phones. And so if you want a new phone, you want to live that Samsung Galaxy life, but you're not willing to drop that much cheddar on a Note 9, then that's where this video comes in. I'm going to compare the two. I'm going to show you what's good about them in general as well as with respect to one another, and I'm also just going to do overall comparisons and my thoughts and preferences on each. So first, I'm going to go ahead and talk about how they just feel in hand and how they compare to each other size-wise and hand feel in general. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at them and how they feel in hand. The Note 8 here on the left, as you can tell, it is bigger than the S9 Plus. I've seen a lot of people compare the two size-wise, but there is a size difference as well as a form factor difference. The Note 8 is a little bit more boxy compared to the S9 Plus. You see the corners are more rounded on the S9 Plus, whereas on the Note 8 they're a little bit more boxy looking. Okay, so over here on the Note 8 we have a 6.3 inch display. On the S9 Plus we have a 6.2 inch display. So the Note 9 has a 6.4 inch display, so it's bigger than both of these. And I gotta say the Note 8 already feels pretty large in the hand. I've got pretty chunky gorilla hands, and this, you know, this is pushing the boundary of what I would safely consider a one-handed device. If you don't put like a pop cap on this thing or something, you're gonna drop this thing. I would not consider this a one-handed device unless you have really large hands. And if you're okay with a really large device, then the screen on the Note 8 is the same resolution as the screen on the S9 Plus. They both have 1440 by 2960 displays. They both have 18.5 by 9 ratios. Both have Gorilla Glass 5 on them. They're both HDR10 compliant, and they're both Super AMOLED screens. So both really nice, really sharp colors, really excellent viewing in the daytime. They get real low so you can not burn out your retinas if you're looking at them at the nighttime with low light. And they both have pretty powerful specs. I'm gonna drop a link to GSM Arena comparison in the link below. You can go through all the little minute details yourself. But basically what I want to get at is that just, you know, the main part of the phone, what you look at is the screens. And it is bigger on the Note 8, which makes it a more unwieldy device just because it's so large. The S9 Plus is a really good size. I really like the size of this one. And that little 0.1 inch of size smallness just makes the S9 Plus a lot easier to hold one-handed. Turning around to the back, this is an area where Samsung really, in my opinion, hosed it up. They put the fingerprint scanner to the, well, in this case, the right of the camera. If you're holding it with the screen facing you, it's to the left of the camera. This leads to a lot of smudgy pictures because unless you're using a case that has a little divider between the lens and the fingerprint scanner, you're more often than not going to hit the lens. Over here on the S9 Plus and with the S9 and the upcoming Note 9, they've moved the fingerprint scanner under the lenses. So that was probably the most significant change, I would say, from this generation of phones, the 8s to the 9s, is moving that fingerprint sensor. Just hand feel, and my preference is the S9 Plus. That fingerprint sensor in that place cannot be understated how satisfying and easy it is to use. Whereas the one over here, you kind of have to feel around for it and get it perfect, and it's not going to be perfect every time. So as far as screens go, they're both beautiful. The S9 Plus being a smaller screen, it's going to have higher pixel density, So it's gonna look a tad sharper, almost indistinguishable to the human eye, the naked eye. They both look nice, they both look amazing. Great colors, great brightness, and as far as hand feel goes, I'm gonna give that to the S9 Plus. But again, like I said, if you don't mind using a device two-handed, if you know this is gonna be too big for you as is, and you want something with a really nice screen, then go ahead and just go for the Note 8. One of the big distinguishing factors between the Note 8 and the S9 Plus is, of course, let me pop this little guy out down here, is the S Pen. You see as soon as I popped it out, we got this menu of options, and you can add more shortcuts here. This is really handy if you like to make annotations in meetings, but you don't want to carry paper with you. Writing on the screen takes some getting used to, but I do prefer that to typing on the on-screen keyboard, just because I have, like I said, I have gorilla hands and my fingers are chunky, so I just prefer to write with the little stylus as opposed to typing out notes. This also makes it really convenient when doing the Smart Select. You can select parts of the screen, you see the little cursor pops up there. It's really awesome, it's really easy to use. I believe that feature is over here too. Yeah, so Smart Select is on here too, but without that stylus support, you're stuck using your hands. And so if you have big hands like me, that's less convenient. They both allow you to select video to make GIF animations, which is awesome. And they both do have this edge display. So go ahead and go back. And you can also manipulate the phone with the stylus as well, which is pretty cool if you don't want to get smudges on your screen or you're trying to show somebody something, as I am here with, you know, the camera. It just makes it a lot more easy, a lot more convenient. So if you think you're gonna want to do something like that, use a stylus, then I would highly recommend the Note 8. It's really convenient, especially if you're a business user, you sign a lot of documents, you take a lot of annotations of stuff on your screen. The stylus is definitely the way to go. If you don't feel like you have any need for that, or you're just not interested in sketching stuff or writing on your screen or anything like that, then definitely the S9 Plus is the way to go if you prefer the smaller form factor. Again, this being the older device, you're probably going to find this one cheaper than the S9 Plus. So if you do find this one cheaper, the stylus is a really nice bonus. It's fun to use, or if you don't want to use it at all, just leave it in the phone and never take it out. It's just there. Another spec I do want to touch on, which I said I was going to put links to the full spec comparisons in the description down below, but is the battery. Even though the S9 Plus is a smaller device, they packed in a larger 3500 milliamp hour battery into this guy as opposed to the 3300 milliamp hour in the Note 8. I think that was them being gun shy after what happened with the Note 7. They were being extra conservative, and so they put a smaller battery in the Note 8. The S9 Plus has a little bit bigger battery, and since it has a smaller screen, that combined with the battery, you're going to get a little bit better performance over here. In my use of both devices, it's not that huge of a difference, but it is a small difference, and so that's another thing to keep in mind. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into a game here. I'm gonna fire up the same game on both devices, just so you can see how it looks running on them, but TLDR, they both are awesome. They both can handle almost any app you throw at them. The chipset in the S9 Plus is a little newer. It's a Snapdragon 845 versus the 835 in the Note 8. That being said, they're both gonna handle multitasking. They're both gonna run games spectacularly, and they're just both really awesome. But, you know, just for completeness sake, I'll go ahead and throw some video of a game being played on both phones right here. Alright, so here we have the S9 Plus on the top portion of the screen and the Note 8 on the bottom portion of the screen. They're both playing Asphalt 9. This is the latest and greatest Asphalt game, and it is a pretty taxing game as far as graphics and visuals go. But as you can see, on both phones, it runs great. The effects are like maxed out on both phones. It looks awesome. I'm gonna play a little bit of the sound of each phone just so you can see how it sounds. Both phones sound pretty good. They both have pretty decent speakers. So I'll go ahead and play that now so you can see how they sound. Alright, so there you have it. That's a taste of the audio coming from both devices. And again, the screens and the graphics processing on both is fantastic. I would not be able to pick one over the other. They're both awesome, and you're going to have a great time using them both for gaming. So now I want to switch over to looking at some photos and seeing the differences between the cameras of the two devices. Okay, so here we're looking at the Note 8 on the left and the S9 Plus on the right. This is the first photo I want to take a look at. This was taken on a bright and sunny day, and at first glance, there's not too much of a difference that I can notice, but once, looking a little closer, I do see that the sky in the Note 8 photo is a little bit bluer. These were both taken, the phones are mounted on a tripod and almost directly next to each other, and I tried taking the photo at the exact same time. In both photos, I tapped on the guy's face right here on the left as my focal point. But overall, both really nice colors. And another thing I do notice, this coloring on the different shades of blue here, there's a little more contrast on the S9 Plus, whereas over here, you can't see as much of the brick and the underlying colors as you can in the S9 Plus. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in and see what the details look like in both. Okay, so here we're zoomed in on the portion that I said that the blues looked a little more contrasty on the S9 Plus. And you'll notice the white highlighting on these drops or flowers, whatever they're supposed to be, are not as prominent on the Note 8, whereas on the S9 Plus, you can actually see the white highlights a little bit better. And then some of the details of the brick are more noticeable as well. Here you see some of the bricks. Lines are a little more smudgy, a little more smudged together. And then over here, you can see the lines are a little more prominent, a little more contrast with the shadow in the bricks here, whereas over here it's just kind of a muted line. At first glance, both really nice photos. Once you zoom in and take a look at the details, I'm going to say the S9 Plus looks a little bit better because it captured more of an accurate photo of what this wall mural actually looked like. Dragging the picture over, see a lot more color contrast here. In the yellows, you see a lot of the darker portions, whereas over here it lightened the darker portions a little bit. And then again, the lines of the bricks seem like they're blurred away on the Note 8, whereas on the S9 Plus, those lines are a lot more striking and more prominent. And so I would say, again, the S9 Plus captured more of an accurate depiction of what this mural looked like. Another place you can notice that pretty clearly is right here, the shadow in this rough part of the wall here. There's not as much shadow over here. And so I'm not sure if that's the optics on the Note 8 just not capturing as much detail, or the software on the Note 8 is trying to smooth it out more aggressively. I prefer the more true to life look that the S9 Plus captured. But again, the Note 8 picture is by no means a terrible photo. It's just not as accurate as the one on the S9 Plus. So let's go ahead and take a look at a different photo. Okay, here we have another bright daylight sunny photo. The coloring on the Note 8 is a little warmer, and it looks like it made the greens pop a little more, whereas on the S9 Plus, the greens are a little more muted, and then the building back here, it's a little warmer on the Note 8, whereas on the S9 Plus it looks a little more muted. The sky looks more blue on the S9 Plus, whereas on the Note 8 it looks a little more washed out. Again, I would say the colors are more accurate on the S9 Plus. In this case, just at first glance though, I think the Note 8 produced a more pleasing picture, just because it does make those greens pop a little more, and the warmer color just is more pleasing to my eye, but that's an opinion, and you might not like how edited this looks. This looks a little more artificial than this one. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see what kind of details we can see. Okay, so here we're zoomed in on the hotel in the background, and right away the different colors, the contrast in the colors of bricks is more noticeable in the S9 Plus's photo, whereas in the Note 8's photo, it looks like it blurred a lot of those colors so that you don't see as many of the detailed bricks. Another place where you notice some kind of blurring going on is in the lines in the windows. They're a little more bold here, whereas over here they look really thin, almost like the Note 8 was trying to just blur them completely away. Shifting the picture over, again the Note 8 a little warmer, a little more pleasing to my eyes anyways. The S9 Plus a little more true to life, and again more details in the bricks and the coloring on the building, whereas over here that kind of gets smudged away with whatever smoothing software is in the Note 8's version of the camera. The windows almost look like a single pane of glass on the Note 8, whereas on the S9 Plus you could see the lines that divide up the window a little more clearly as well. And then the reflection in the windows, the color is more accurate on the S9 Plus, whereas on the Note 8, it took on a weird purplish hue. So overall, both decent photos. Me personally, I prefer the Note 8 in this case as opposed to the previous photo where I preferred the S9 Plus. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next photo. Alright, so again, Note 8 on the left, S9 Plus on the right. Right off the bat, I'm very pleased with both of these pictures. This was actually a dark bar arcade. It looked a lot darker in person than it does in the photos. So right off the bat, again, both really good photos. I like both of them. I would say the coloring, to my eyes anyway, is almost identical in both of them. I can't pick a winner right off the bat. I think they both look really good. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see what kind of details we pick up in both photos. Alright, so here I'm zoomed in on the Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I love Ninja Turtles. Looking at both of these side by side, we notice that the details, again, are more prominent on the S9 Plus. You see in the Turtles here, you can see the dark coloring within each letter, whereas on the Note 8, it just kind of blurs it all together and makes it look like it's one single color on the inside. This building right here in the top section, you can see more details, the lines underneath the windows. On the Note 8, that gets blurred and smudged away. So again, in this case, I'm going to give it to the S9 Plus, but I'm pretty happy with both of these photos. So let's go on to the next one. Alright, so as has become tradition with these videos that I've been making comparing phones, I always got to take a picture of a beer, because beer's delicious. Right off the bat, again, they both look really good, really nice photos. I will say the coloring is, again, more accurate on the S9 Plus. The beer was not as dark as it looks in the Note 8. This is more accurate as to what it looked like. And this is a difficult shot because the door was providing some intense backlighting. And then the fact that it still picked up details, you know, in the dark parts of the picture, is pretty impressive. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in and see what kind of details we can see. Okay, so zooming in on the beer here, and in both cases, I tapped the center of the glass as my focal point. We see at the bottom the condensation is a little more blurry, a little more smudgy on the Note 8, whereas on the S9 Plus, you could see almost the individual beads of water more clearly. This board on the left, again, way more detail here than on this side on the Note 8. And in this case, I'm going to prefer the S9 Plus photo just because, like I said, you see more of that condensation detail. And one last thing to point out in this photo, the exit sign is a little more blurred out on the Note 8, whereas on the S9 Plus, it's a little more easy to distinguish the letters from each other. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and give it to the S9 Plus. So let's go to the next one. Alright, so here we have an up-close shot of this flower, and it was nice and bright and sunny. And in this case, it looks like, again, the Note 8 tried to crank up the saturation on the yellows and make it warmer looking. The leaves look a little bit off. You can see right here, this is a different shade of green than over here. And then in the flower itself, the yellow is a lot more brighter. Whereas here, it's a little more muted, but it's more contrasty and it looks more accurate again. So right off the bat, I prefer the S9 Plus photo in this one. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see how things look. Okay, so zooming on the flower here, you can see way more detail on the S9 Plus. You see the little lines in the petals. So again, S9 Plus takes it. And again, both not bad photos. So let's go ahead and do a close-up dark photo next. So as with the picture of the arcade machines and the beer, this was a lot darker in person than it looks in the photo. So off the bat, I'm really happy with how they both look. Both phones are going to give you great low light performance. This was a really dark picture. I'm really surprised at how bright it looks. Honestly, I can't pick a winner right now just because they're both really good, and I'm just really impressed at how much it brightened the photo and how much it captured given how dark it was. Let's go ahead and zoom in and see what kind of details we see in this one. Okay, so we're zoomed in here, and as kind of is the running theme now, you see more detail in the S9 Plus. The colors actually look pretty good in both of them, so no real distinction there. But again, just more details, more contrast in the S9 Plus. In his hair, again, just more detail captured with the lines and the little shadows. Whereas over here, they just got blurred a little bit more. So in this one, I'm going to give it again to the S9 Plus. So now let's take a look at some selfies of myself, unfortunately. Alright, so again, Note 8 on the left, S9 Plus on the right. Right off the bat, the coloring on the Note 8 is a lot warmer. My skin tone is not that color on the left, so I'm going to say the S9 Plus gets the coloring, again, more accurate. What's interesting in this one, though, we've been seeing the Note 8 cranking up the green color in pictures, and it looks like in this case it's the opposite. The trees look way more saturated on the S9 Plus, whereas on the Note 8 they look more muted. And another thing I noticed which was interesting, is the contrast on this little waterfall back here. It's better. You can see the water a little clearer, whereas here the color looks just blown out and you can't really make it out. Alright, so here we are zoomed in on the little waterfall in the back here. It looks a lot cleaner in the Note 8's photo, which is interesting because up until this point the Note 8 has not been doing very well with capturing details that are this fine, whereas the S9 Plus, they just completely got blurred out. And in both cases I tapped on my face as the focal point, and it just seems like the Note 8 captured a lot better detail. I prefer the more detail, and you can just adjust the skin tones later, or if you like it giving you a faux rosy look, then there you go. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more selfie, and this time it'll be a dark one. So here are some selfies in a darkly lit bar. Again, right off the bat, really happy with how bright these turned out. It was pretty dark in this bar, so I'm really surprised with how bright they turned out. I will say taking this photo was incredibly challenging on the S9 Plus. It kept coming out really blurry. I probably looked like a maniac because I was taking so many damn selfies. But the Note 8, I want to say this is like the third or fourth picture that I ended up sticking with. Whereas on the S9 Plus, to get a picture that wasn't so blurry, it took like probably a dozen times. It just would not capture a good blur-free selfie on the S9 Plus. I'm not really sure why. The contrast is a lot more intense on the lighting on my face, whereas here kind of smoothed out the lighting. So I would say the S9 Plus is more accurate, but the Note 8 is a more pleasing photo if you're into selfies. I am not, so I look kind of like a goon. But if I had to choose, I would probably choose this one here. So zooming in on the jersey and the sign back here, the S9 Plus to me looks a little more blurry. The jersey you can see has kind of a yellowish tinge to it, whereas in this one it looks, you know, a crisp white, and this is pretty accurate as to how the jersey looked. The yellow on this sign back here is a little more muted on the Note 8. In closing, I would say overall the S9 Plus takes more accurate and more detailed photos, whereas the Note 8 takes more filtered, stylized looking photos, and both perform really well in low light. I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to video now, but as far as just cameras go, the rear shooter, I prefer the S9 Plus. The selfie camera, I'm gonna prefer the Note 8. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to video and take a look at some side-by-side comparison video of the two phones. Alright, so here we see a side-by-side shot of both phones. They were both mounted in a tripod, and so I was holding that, so they were literally side by side. The only difference that I noticed in reviewing both samples of footage is the Note 8 on the left, as it did with the pictures, it just kind of cranks up that green coloring, and which looks nice for the trees, but in some parts it makes the water look this weird hue of green, which is kind of gross if it's not St. Patrick's Day. Other than that, I didn't really notice too much of a difference. I was really surprised that there wasn't that much difference other than the color. Other than that, the audio is fine from both. I'll go ahead and let you listen to some samples of audio. I'll do the Note 8 first, and then the S9 Plus, just so you can hear what the audio sounds like recorded from both phones. So there you have it. That's a look at footage from both phones, pictures from both phones, performance from both phones. Bottom line, they're both really good phones. And the reason I want to do this comparison again is the Note 9 is out now. That thing is over $1,000. You can probably buy one of these used for half that price. And I wanted to compare these specifically because I wanted to show that the Note 8 is a really, really good phone compared to the S9 Plus, which is, you know, a little bit better, but not significantly so to where I would say spend the extra $100, $200 on the S9 Plus used and get one of those instead of the Note 8. Right now, looking at prices on a site like Swappa, I'll put the links in the description down below, but the Note 8 on average is going for anywhere from $100 to $200 less than the S9 Plus. So it's a really good deal on a really good phone. And if you want something that is going to give you good pictures, good battery life, good screen, just overall good experience, definitely consider the Note 8. Or if you're still not ready for the Note 9, but have a little more coin to spend, the S9 Plus is also a valid option. I'm going to be doing comparisons of the Note 8 and the Note 9, as well as the S9 Plus and the Note 9, and then the Pixel 2 XL and the Note 9 as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Instagram. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can see all those videos that I mentioned that I'm going to be working on, and make sure you don't miss out on any of those. So until next time, take care.